Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another segment of the News According to Me. I'm Rich Siegel, and I'm talking to you from my office in Kingston, New York. I admit that I was anticipating eagerly President Biden's press conference on Thursday, just to get an indication, a lot of publicity about that he had not given a press conference in a couple months, that he has been very low profile, which is just a fact. And so excited to see what he was going to say, how he was going to stand up, what approach he was going to use, what his feelings were going forward, and how together he is in getting it all together. Much to do about nothing. As I watched it, the thing that stuck out at me most is that after watching the whole press conference, that we are becoming dangerously close to a one-party media, where, in other words, we have most of the media is on one side and completely protective of the president and not going after him. There's a definite dichotomy and a different way of approach of the way they're approaching Biden and the kid gloves they're treating him with, and that was obvious to me. And we'll get into that about the media a little bit. But in trying to be fair, I said to myself, I'm going to look at this press conference and I'm going to come at it in three different perspectives after I hear it. If I was a strong supporter of Biden who did not like Trump and voted for Biden, my perspective, someone who didn't care either way's perspective, and then thirdly, if I was a Trump supporter or one of the 75 million, what I thought of the conference. And this is all in perspective of the conference. In terms of the positive, if I'm a Biden supporter trying to say, hey, he's fine, he's doing a good job, he definitely made it through the conference. It was an hour. I thought that he was able to answer the questions. He had tons of notes, and the questions were pre-planned, that he knew they were coming. But you could make an argument that he's fit to be president if you are one of his supporters. There are signs that he is capable of putting a sentence together. I'm not trying to be. I'm really trying to be like, what did you see that was a good thing? He did get some tough questions. It's hard to say a lot of positive because a lot of the things he said were false, and it's hard to pick on that because, example is he was talking about, well, I'm for the filibuster. I'm not for the filibuster. We'll get to that too. That's another thing. How many people were coming in and how many he's trying to send back, why the media can't get in and look at all of these facilities right now. There were a lot. Okay. But I'm sticking with the positive. He definitely made it through the thing. The press conference. It was an hour long, and a lot of the media said it was wonderful, and it was a refreshing. If you were looking for no more controversy, no more back and forth, no more argumentative type stuff, no more interrupting the president, no more the president going on, although he went on, but that was good. If you're like my brother who says, I just want calm. I don't want all of this in my life every day in the news that the president's in the news. You got it. So there's the positive. That's my perspective from that point of view. If I was down the middle of the road, I can't help but think I'd be going, this guy's shaky. He is a puppet. But I'm okay with that because he's better than Trump. That would be the middle of the road thing. There's not much positive to say about Joe Biden's leadership, is what I'm saying in the middle. He contradicts himself. He doesn't really have his own views. He can't speak spontaneously off his head, off the top of his head. He has a hard time answering questions that he doesn't know are coming. We don't even know that because he knows the questions that are coming and then looks up the answer and reads it. That's what I saw. Okay. That's the middle of the road, though. But if you didn't like Trump's act in a press conference, if you didn't like the way Trump talked to the press, if you didn't like the fact that Trump called the press the enemy of the people, as a middle of the, which I didn't like at all. As a middle of the road person, I think the press is in love with Biden. They're in love more with the fact, I think, that Trump isn't the president, but the fact is they are not going to do anything to damage him, the mainstream man. Every way they can help him, they're going to try to help him. So, okay. Third perspective is as a if I was someone who voted for Trump and really thought that Biden was not going to do that good a job and that Trump was way better, I mean, this was a convincing thing. I mean, if you watch Biden during the press conference, he is half the man he used to be. It's clear he is a puppet of the left that will say whatever they tell him to say. He has no real philosophies of his own. He is ready to take this country as far left as he can. And then you have to ask, well, what is the real agenda? And I think it's pretty clear. I think this press conference made it very, if you were listening and you know what the issues are and what the left's agenda is, which is more of a globalized, more states, more people on the Supreme Court, do away with the filibusters, get their agenda passed. That's their agenda. That is their modus of operandi right now. So looking at what he actually talked about specifically, he didn't talk about COVID. There were no questions on that. So let's start with what a disgrace the media is in terms of that way. You had 25 reporters in there. 10 were picked on. There was a list that Biden had of who to pick and when to pick them, names circled with the pictures of the person he was supposed to point out and ask the question. The questions were, I don't think he knew them ahead of time, but in general, they skipped that. They did not talk about the COVID. There was mostly the border and mostly what he was going to do about filibusters and sophomore things like, is he going to run again? There were of the 10, 3 or 4 of the questions weren't even questions. They were just, how do you feel? What do you think about? Wide open questions that didn't pin him down, and they never pinned him down, and they never will. So, you just have to accept that, but you also have to take a look at, this is the media now. This is who we're dealing with, and normally in the history of the world, when you have a media that is one party leaning, it leads to autocracy and a totalitarian state. That's a fact, and we'll see what happens. So that would be the real negative. I think the media is, got to get, this guy has a lot to be held in the fire. There's so many problems going on right now. We need to know who's making these decisions. We need to know who's telling him, just as close as advisors, and who are his closest advisors, who are telling those closest advisor, because that's what it is right now. It's a pass down. So let's go to the filibuster, which was one of the big things talking about, and get a little education here too on filibusters. Filibusters have been around in politics forever. They're a congressional thing. They're specifically tied to the United States Senate, where and they come into play when one party has the majority in the House and the Senate, and that they can vote. In other words, right now, anything that Democrats put forward, if they get all the votes in the House Democratic and all the House votes in the House Democratic, they break the tie with Kamala Harris being the 51st vote for whatever they want. So on paper, if you look at it quick, the Democrats could do whatever they wanted. They have a Democratic president. They put forward an agenda. The House would make a bill, bring it to the Senate. Senate votes 50-51. That's where the filibuster comes in. It was for this type of dominance, to delay those decisions. It is a process that is used in the Senate. That's it. So when you get it, when the bill comes to the Senate, and if it's 50-51, and it's the chance for the senators, in this case the Republicans, to filibuster. In other words, the original filibuster was just talk and delay the vote until the vote passed. And it was a way of protecting when the three branches of government were all on one side. Not the three branches, but the House, Senate, and the presidency were all on the same page. We're not talking about the Supreme Court now. The Congress and the president, it was a way for the other party to not let things go through. It ends up like this, that if you can't get 10 other votes, then the filibuster keeps going. To stop the filibuster, you would need 10 Republican votes now. That's how it works. Why did Democrats want to get rid of it? The obvious reason is so there can't be a filibuster. The Democrats then can just get through whatever they want, whenever they want, every time, and radically change it. And what is their motive if they do get rid of the filibuster? Their motive is they would, it's clear. They would like to expand the Supreme Court to give them more. This is all for protection for Democrats winning every time after this. They want to make sure that the voting right laws are changed. They want to make it more accessible, which you could argue, and I agree, everybody should vote. But there should be verification. And what they're looking for is to just, you can harvest ballots, you can have mail-in votes from anywhere. In other words, what they want is not to have to document. They want the new people coming in to vote. They know they're all going Democrat. So that's a start. They want to talk about adding Washington, D.C. as a state. That will never get through with the filibuster there. But without it, it can get through. And this is what I would argue is the goal. This is the whole thing of the radical agenda, to let more people into the country, assuming they're going to vote Democrats, give them the opportunity to vote, and assuring that it would just about impossible with a person with a Republican tag under their name could win an election, especially a national election. I think that is their long-term goal. That's not a conspiracy theory. The argument back is that why are you against having everybody vote? I am not. I am for everybody having the right to vote. I am only saying that there should be some fair guidelines about when you can vote, how long before, how long after, the absentee ballots, who gets a ballot, and there should be some verification of who you are before you vote. I don't think you can argue with that. I have to show a driver's license when I go into Panera Bread. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but all the time I have to identify myself that I am who I am. Why shouldn't I have to do that when I vote? And right now, that is what the law is. You do have to identify yourself, but we know there's all kinds of fraud, and the Democrats, want to make it easier for more people to vote, because they know that will lean to more people who should not be voting. Should not. They're dead. They're not citizens. Whatever it may be, whatever the fraud may be, the Democrats want to make it easier. The Republicans want to make it more legitimate. That's the way I see it. And again, we can argue that all day about, people should be able to vote. So that's a big thing about the filibuster. It's going to be a big thing if they don't get the things they want all the time, because the filibusters do happen. Then they are going to try to do away with the filibuster. So that is going to be something to really watch. And how do they do away with the filibuster? The same vote. They propose a bill to do away with the filibuster, and then they will have a filibuster. It won't be that easy. But if they do get to the 60, or they do extend it long enough and they do get it away, then we'll have a country where they can put through their agenda, and that's what they need to do in the next couple of years to try not to. Otherwise, if they just leave the voting the way it is, the Republicans will probably take back the House and the Senate. So that's what they're trying to avoid. That's the goal of it. It's just the way it works. As for the border, I thought President Biden that was his worst area in terms of what we're doing at the border and what a disaster that is. And we're arguing over whether it's a crisis or whether it's not. And we're blaming Donald Trump. And it's ridiculous. We have a crisis at the border. It is definitely a fact that the word throughout the South American nations was, if Biden's the president, there's more opportunity, and it's a good time to get there. And they twist it into, this time of year more. Those they're counting Trump's lies. These are lies. I'm not trying to get excited, but when Jen Psaki says on there, and Biden said in his conference, we're sending more people back. There's very few people coming in. The facts are 13% of 100% are being sent back. The other 87% are finding their way into the country right now, or at the border, and it's a disaster. And they're coming in with undocumented, being dropped off in different cities. They're still, you've seen the pictures. They're covering up what it is down there, saying this is Trump's fault. It's their biggest problem right now to try to explain. But I think at the end they don't care. They'll say Biden's a puppet. The more people they get in, the Democrats will have more votes. And these are people who will vote Democratic because they don't know any better, or because they believe that it's the Democrats want him here and the Republicans don't, which is a fallacy too. But it's a perception, and it's the narrative that they are trying to push through. And, so far it's working and could continue to work at the detriment of what's happening to the United States. All right. So I thought that was interesting. To me, obviously, the only two things they talked about was the border the biggest things, the border and the filibuster. They didn't mention about, he tried to hype up that there's 200 million vaccines a day. He was going to get to 200 million within his first 100 days. Great. I mean, we were doing 100,000 now a day. Now we're going to do 200,000 a day. Whatever it is, whatever the numbers are, I'm all for that. But you can't not at some way say that it was all Trump's fault, but it's Trump who got the vaccine. They just are. It's back to the binding and bringing us together. You're not going to get any binding of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party or just the people in general if you are going to try to do away with the filibuster, if you're going to try to expand the Supreme Court, if you are going to pass voting bills that make it so that anybody that's a live body can be handed a piece of paper and they can tell them who to write down their name and then bring back the ballot. That's what they want. That's where they're headed. That's not scary. That's saying, hey, you can argue that we want more people to vote, or we're going to, if there's bodies, as many bodies as we can get in the United States, so then we can have our complete agenda. Okay, so overall, I give Joe Biden, I mean, from what you expected, a C for his news conference. Wow. I mean, he's the president of the United States, and, the other part of me goes, if that was me up there, I'm never coming up there with notes. I'm preparing. I have to show what I know, what I don't know, what I have to ask questions about. I have to be really familiar, but I'm not looking at any notepad at 78 years old as the president of the United States with 47 years in politics. Yes, I'm prepared. Yes, I have notes in front of me all the time. But if I'm so afraid to go up there that I can't speak about what's going on right now with the border, what I can't speak about right now, what I think about filibusters, if I can't think about right now how I want to try to unite, there wasn't one word I'm showing how they want to try to unite. The only thing Biden said was, if the Republicans want to agree with me and do everything we can, we'll fine with that, but otherwise, forget them. That's the message that was sent there. I'm saying that as a neutral person. Okay, there's no question there's no binding, there's no coming together. Biden is not healing anything so far, nothing. And I mean, it's almost like it's too late, really, because when you're already setting this tone, from that perspective, it was terrible. Let's end with our favorite governor, Mr. Cuomo, who's still in there. Not much to report except I don't know how he can go on. I don't know how he can govern. I don't know how anybody in New York at this point can say, yeah, he should not resign with all the scandals that are in front of him. 15,000 deaths in a nursing home, lying about it, covering up about it, 9 people who worked under him while he's the governor who have legitimate claims of sexual harassment and sexual abuse to them in the workplace. That number 2 from number 1, Biden has a trouble doing 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 now. 1 is the nursing home, 15,000 deaths. 2 is the sexual abuse and sexual harassment of 9 different accusers, and there'll be more. 3rd is the general tone of his governorship of arrogance, bullying, and now the idea of that there's proof in it, the contracting deals that were made on the bridge that he named after his father. This is not good stuff. And then just recently, beyond that, they're saying that he went out of his way to make sure that his family was tested COVID way before. Now, that may sound like nothing, but this is when the medical staffs, nobody could get tested. They weren't doing tests. Cuomo got his mother, his brother, and one other person, his sister, and did it very shakily. So it's okay, again, here we are. If you're the governor or you're this and you're telling me what to do every day on TV and the people are bowing to you and you're taking care of yourself and you're not wearing a mask and you're getting your family tested and you're on TV joking about you and your governor and you're the love gov, why you're abusing 9 women and you're the leader of coronavirus while you're killing 15,000 people in the nursing homes, I'm sorry. You can't get by that. And if you do try to say anything but, geez, it looks bad, and I might have been wrong about Cuomo. I'm talking about for all the supporters of him. then there's no use having a conversation. There's where I stand on that. Then please don't ever react to anything I say. Don't make comments because you sound ridiculous. If you cannot at this point go, Andrew Cuomo is a joke. He is a thief. He is a predator. He is. I don't think he murder's intention, and I've said that before. But he was responsible for 15,000 deaths in a nursing home, and live with that. If you're, that's what it is. And never said he's sorry, never takes any responsibility, and indirectly blames Trump. So that's it for this week. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks again.